I used to be a complete and total nervous wreck. Matter of fact, really my entire life I've been a bit of a nervous wreck, and I've never really known how to talk to people. Um, and I've also really only had like one or two close friends my entire life, which isn't necessarily completely out of the ordinary. But in my particular case, I was always super lonely, always very isolated, and normally these close friends of mine, I'd go months at a time without even talking to them. And it was really, really painful, like a really, really painful time. And really, a lot of these problems I kind of inflicted upon myself. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't just bite the bullet and try to talk to people. I never really bothered to expand my horizon at all and to try to meet new people. And overall, I mean, really, I was at fault. There were like a few factors that were out of my control, but really, I could have easily gotten around them. So I was like this my entire life until one fateful day I was saved, seemingly. And it all started with my friend who introduced me to an interesting manga. Um, First of all, I'm really not the type to. I haven't really ever been the type to read manga or watch anime. Really, anything Japanese. For the longest time, like I was kind of like averse to that sort of stuff, mainly because it had a bit of a um, it had a bit of a stereotype behind the people who looked at that stuff. Um, and the manga in particular that my friend introduced me to was called Love Bullet, which, if you don't know, um, it's a girls' love Yuri manga. To many, Yuri has, I mean, like, at least from my point of view, Yuri was kind of like a fetish or something, which is why I never really looked into it. I thought it was weird. I thought the people who enjoyed it were weird because normally the people who were into it were straight dudes who, to me, it felt like, they were getting off to it or something, which I didn't really like. And it kind of deterred me from really wanting to engage in that sort of stuff. So I never really even knew if I liked it because I didn't even want to mess with it at all. The thing about it is, Love Bullet wasn't really like that. It felt just like pure romance. I didn't really feel like the whole same sex stuff was really that big of a deal. And also it kind of balances it out a lot. Like there's a lot of intermissions with like straight couples and things like that. And I guess it's just kind of the way that it approaches it. They don't really talk a whole lot about the fact that, they're both girls. Like, that really cliche Yuri trope where it's like, we're both girls, yada, yada, yada. You get the picture. They didn't really do that at all. It wasn't like that at all. It just felt like romance. And I mean, I've never really been a fan of romance either, which is funny. Never been a fan of romance my entire life until my friend introduces me to Love Bullet, and something felt incredibly special about it and different. It felt like I felt like I could read a romance manga. I felt like I could engage in romance without feeling like a creep or a weirdo, which was kind of a new feeling for me because I've definitely tried to dabble in romance before, but every single time I've never really liked it. So, in a way, Love Bullet was kind of my gateway Yuri, if you will. And needless to say, I definitely like wanted more after that initial high. So there's this website I used to use a lot, and I still use it every now and then today, but like not really as often. It's this website called Safe Boru, which is basically Danboru without the 90% chance of running into just straight up porn. Which is definitely kind of cool. Totally recommend, the site to anybody who likes looking at that sort of Japanese style of art, but doesn't really want to look at, the extra perverse stuff. I really, really liked it because for a while I just wanted to look at cute art on there. And I really didn't even know like any of the characters who were on there or anything. Um, but this was kind of a way for me to, I guess, explore like Yuri and everything without like really getting deeper into other manga or watching anime or something like that. Because keep in mind, I was still definitely kind of weirded out by that stuff. And Love Bullet was more of just kind of an exception for me. So I wanted to explore this stuff in a medium that felt appropriate to me. So normally I was just looking at cute art of like freaking lesbians or whatever the hell. Later on though, I decided to try to watch some Yuri anime and read some other manga because Safe Boru just wasn't reliable. um, I mean, stuff was posted on there daily, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted at all. So I started to educate myself, if you will, in the Yuri world, and I actually became like completely obsessed with it. And that's like a bad habit I have, getting obsessed with things, but I don't know, it felt like such a like a new and exciting thing to me. I freaking loved it. Some of the anime that I watched, if I recall correctly, one of them I watched Bloom Into You, I watched Sweet Blue Flowers, I watched a few others. They're all really interesting. Obviously, they're not without their flaws and weird, problematic, to say the least, relationships and everything. But really, it was kind of like, it's kind of a new dawn for me. But yeah, how does this even like tie into the whole like social life thing at all? Well, okay. I mentioned earlier that I was super lonely and yada yada yada, blah blah blah. I didn't know how to talk to people, and just genuinely like generally socially awkward. That's like definitely like the surface of it, but like below that there was like another thing that was like the cause of that, which was the fact that I really just used to hate like everything about myself. I don't know. It was just like the way that I looked, the way that I talked even. I didn't like how tall I was. I didn't like my hair. I didn't like my face. I didn't like my sense of fashion, which is kind of a weird thing to say because I could have easily just switched that up anytime I wanted to. But no, I hated everything about myself. And I also just felt like I couldn't do anything right. It just kind of felt like I was a failure at everything, which I knew I wasn't. I actively acknowledged the fact that I was making progress all the time. And I was definitely proud of myself, but at the same time, I just felt like I wasn't going anywhere at the pace that I wanted to. It felt like I was not at my full potential. It felt like I was being lazy. And I mean, with all of that stuff, I had a general lack of confidence. I couldn't approach people like at all. I was like really, really self-conscious about my social awkwardness. So I really just avoided talking to people altogether. And that lasted for years. It wasn't until I got like into college, I mean really 3 years into college, that I actually started to try to talk to people at all and to try to get to know people. But even then it was terrible, a horrible experience. Every single time I talked to somebody, it felt like I was either reading off of a script or overthinking every single little line of dialogue to make sure that everything I was saying was perfect. So, I mean, initially, Yuri was kind of an escape from social interactions for me. I really I hated talking to people. Even though I wanted to talk to people, I just hated it because it was so nerve-wracking for me. And usually, I'd go to college and I'd force myself to talk to people, to try to get to know people, to try to improve socially. But it really didn't work. I'd get home the same day, completely exhausted, that I couldn't even talk to a friend on the phone or something. I couldn't talk to my own family members, and I'd just lay in bed until it was time to go to sleep. So Yuri was definitely an escape from that for me. And as I read Yuri, I kind of saw myself a lot in the characters, and their stories and like development as just people in general kind of inspired me. And I'm not saying that to say like I'm a lesbian or something like that, because obviously I'm not. I just mean like genuinely, I felt like I saw myself in the characters, and I found it interesting, their journeys and how they were figuring themselves out, navigating relationships. It felt inspiring to me, and it kind of made me a lot more motivated to try with social interaction and to just, to take shots. If I wanted to talk to somebody, then maybe I should just say something to them. Don't even think about it. Just say what's on your mind, and don't worry about the consequences, because sometimes people just don't really want to listen to you, and that's fine. You could just leave them alone. And so ever since I started my whole Yuri journey, if that's what you want to call it, I had a newfound confidence and hope, and it made me feel like I was actually going somewhere in my life. Um, I also it also pushed me to improve in a lot of other areas in my life that I never thought I'd ever improve in. After a little while, I could actually look in the mirror and smile at myself for once. And I felt like I wasn't ugly. You know, I felt like I actually had something to look forward to. And I felt like I was almost a likable guy in a way, which was something I never really felt before. And it was a really eye opening experience for me. And, I started to be able to approach and talk to people without being nervous and constantly self conscious about everything I was saying. Most importantly, I actually started to love myself a little bit. And also just, I was always looking forward to who I was becoming. I loved myself in the present, and I loved myself in the future. And I almost felt empathy for my past self. And a lot of it, I was able to forgive myself for stuff I did in the past that was awkward or just generally weird, that sort of stuff, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm 21 now, but there are plenty of times that I've thought about weird interactions in middle school, even today. And it's been difficult to just tell myself that, dude, you were a little kid. Like, kids freaking say stupid stuff all the time. But no, I mean, ever since I started looking at Yuri, that whole thing just went away. But I mean, really though, like, I mean, I don't know. I have an interesting fascination by Yuri. And I don't really know exactly what it is. I think part of it is that it allowed me to freely explore romance without, like, I don't know, inserting myself into it or imagining myself unintentionally in one of the positions of, like, the lovers in the stories. Or maybe if it was just like something else. I don't really know. But I mean, it made me feel like I could explore it and not feel so emotionally invested, if that makes sense. And another thing was definitely just the general softness of it and the fluff. Obviously, I mean, you get the same thing from straight romance a lot of times, but to me personally, I feel like straight romance tends to be a lot more cliche, and generally uncreative, just because it's such an oversaturated theme in so much media. You know what I mean? But I just kind of felt like the fluff and the softness in the characters, it felt like an escape from reality for a second, and it made me feel like, shoot, you know what I mean? I could just, like, sit back and relax a little bit and just enjoy this story, and I don't have to worry about anything else. It was cool. So, okay, obviously, I also want to say that, like, correlation does not obviously equal causation, all right? Um, I mean, very clearly, I was also improving my life in a lot of other different ways. I was trying to work out more. I was trying to eat better. I was trying to talk to people. I mean, really, obviously, I was actively trying to do things, at that same instance that I was introduced to Yuri. But it feels like Yuri was such a drastic turning point. Like, it was almost like the second I was introduced to it, I immediately started feeling better. It felt like that was the thing that was fixing my life. It was the cure all, you know? Um my fault. I don't mean to act like I don't mean to like freaking bawl my eyes out over freaking girls kissing or whatever. That's freaking stupid. Okay. But I like to say that I definitely don't think it's a coincidence by any means, you know? I feel like it was genuinely um a, a major turning point, you know? Like it felt like I took a magic pill that just turned my entire life around, and it was incredible. So like obviously I'm not a doctor or anything, but if you're like going through something like at all, if you feel like you're just going through the worst time of your life and you genuinely feel like you could be doing so much more, but you just feel like you can't, then I think Yuri is the best medicine for that, dude. Give it a shot and see if it works for you. You know what I mean? Like, hey bro, like contact your doctor before trying out this treatment, okay? I think it can really do you wonders, cuz it definitely did me wonders. It it made me like it made me into such a like a better person, like character wise, health wise, freaking everything wise, dude. Try it out, all right? With all that being said, I don't really have any much more to say. There's definitely like a lot more, behind the scenes, like what was going on, why was I socially awkward, what made me go all emo, like I don't forget, like there's so much stuff, there's so much stuff that goes into it. Um, and it's all stuff for a completely different video. I don't want to sit here and rant for like freaking 5 hours straight talking about my sap story and how terrible my life is. You get the picture, okay? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.